My name is Naima. I'm the founder of the Academy for Womanhood, where we essentially help women grow up. And although we, on this essentially level, help women grow up, my specialty as a born God, as a master in the work that I do and in the life that I live, my specialty at a heart level, so this is not even just skill, but my actual specialty at a heart level is helping women who have always been different and advanced. Like this here should include the word advanced as it did yesterday. And so what I mean by advanced is you always were advanced in mind, advanced for your age, advanced in the spiritual world, advanced in your sight, advanced in what you were able to do. So my specialty at a heart level and at a skill level is to work with those of us who have always been advanced, and we either consciously know or something in us I just get a feeling that I'm here to do very specific work in the world. Not this whole I'm looking for my purpose thing. You either have gotten clear instructions and you decided to ignore and forget or distract yourself, or you have had things begin to bubble up in you, and perhaps the intensity of it or the unfamiliarity of it, the emotionality around it had you like you want to get it off. You want to you want to put yourself more so into an equilibrium that you are familiar with, that you know is comfortable for you. And so when it comes time though, and what I like to get at today is the attachments that keep us bound. Because when you ask yourself, and this is a question I have to ask clients all the time, and sometimes it's in plain sight, but when we're in our own mind going in cycles, we don't see it. And what that is a couple things. One, what am I attached to that keeps me here? Because wherever you are, right, when you're an accomplished person, you have a lot, especially to the average eye, to keep you there. There's a lot of creature comforts, okay? There's a lot of respect from people who either don't know who you are or who benefit from you staying where you are, okay? And so when where you are is very comfortable, it's very familiar, it's very successful, right? Like you may have 3 properties around the world, right? You travel gorgeously. You host family gatherings and parties and holiday events, and you have people who see you as an esteemed being, okay? There's no financial worry or struggle for you. And to the average eye, you look like you have it all, or you have things that are very desirable to large numbers of people. And when you've built up a life like that, and also in part piggybacking on the live stream that I did yesterday, when you have built up that life, to build up that life, you had to have a strong ego. Now, there are pros and cons to an ego. So this is not at all about like stabbing the ego and making it the villain. It's just being aware of the strength of it and the necessity of the strength of it to get you to where you are now at a material level, okay, with all the comforts. So that's piggybacking on yesterday's live stream, but also when you have built up, right, we're talking neural pathways. So this is multi-layered what I'm talking about. You've built this up neuropathically. You've built this up in your pattern building. You've built this up in your identity. You've built this up in how you've made meaning out of your life. And you are attached to it up here. Like, this is who I am. Okay. This is my husband or whoever is the partner in your life, if you have one. You know, these are my children. This is where I live. This is my house. This is all the things that constitute your life and that have really created strength and attachment here at a heart level and in your existence. And what's not talked about that I want to talk about today that we got to start to get at when you're sincere about living your legendary life, which is so signature to you, that's at a heart and soul level, is one, the strength of those attachments. They're very strong, okay, on top of inertia and all that. But then the pull between the comfort and the inertia and the familiarity with this thing that has gnawed at you for 20 years at different degrees of intensity. Okay, so again, this is for a very specific woman. This is not for average women who want average things, and that is totally fine. This is not against anybody. This is not downing anybody. This is just to make a clear picture of who I'm talking to. Okay? So this woman, like I said, you perhaps started to get called when you were 12 years old. Okay? You got certain instructions. You just knew certain things like I did as a teenager. And for whatever reason, and oftentimes those reasons are, if you really go the way that you get called to go, your mom is going to disagree, right? They're going to call you irresponsible. What are you doing? Right? I've had plenty of clients whose guardians started calling them witches when they were 7, 8, 9 years old, right? Women who were connected, who knew, who had power, was connected to the earth, was prophetic, could heal things, change things, like literally like little baby gods walking around. And their parents who were underdeveloped or who in their own fear knocked their children down. So this 7-year-old genius chose the normal route, okay? And now that 7-year-old is now 47. And on the outside, she looks like the thing you want to be when you grow up, that you want to aspire to. And inside, she's miserable. And for the average eye, people don't understand how. You have such a beautiful family, this beautiful home. You've had so much success. How could you be so? Because the soul cares nothing about your big ass mansions around the world. The soul cares nothing about your abundant bank account. Get at it, these attachments. The soul cares nothing about the man that you're married to. Hello? The soul cares nothing about all of these tangible, material, seemingly successful, fulfilling things. And when we've built up so much attachment to it, and this thing that started gnawing at you at 7 years old, and then came through in a, clients say they had fleeting moments or glimpses of who they are, glimpses of their power, right? And oftentimes these glimpses can happen like after a very intense workout, or something happens medically where you got to sit your ass down and pay attention to your life without distraction for longer than normal, or somebody says something rather odd or raw or mean, but is laced with truth about your inner landscape. And it slaps you awake momentarily. And you remember what you always knew. And then because the density of your current reality has such a tight grip, it's able to pull you out of this sobering clarity back up into the maze of this made up fulfillment. Okay. And so you are now 47. And you're sitting in this thing that you should be happy with. And in many ways you are, right? Like, who doesn't fucking like a trip to Italy? Like, who doesn't like to go just sit down in the sun in the Caribbean, and drink by the pool and do nothing for a little while, right? So yes, to all those things. Yes, you've been dude, you did some difficult things. Okay, it's difficult to get a PhD, right? Even if you are studious, it takes a certain kind of concentration, a focus, a commitment to completion, a diligence, right? While just navigating your everyday life, right? Just going through the whole process of living, being a human, doing things, raising a family, right? You've done difficult things. So there's a lot to be proud of, to be grateful for, to feel like you won at life. Yes, this is all true. Okay. And when you start giving more attention to the you that you always knew at 7, hell, for some of my clients, they remember being infants, okay, in their mother's arms, 4 years old, returning back to the you that always knew, and then giving attention to her, real attention, with the intent to bring her out. I'm talking about the wisdom of her, not necessarily a 3-year-old voice, okay? And the soul of that, the whisper of that, the ever present whisper too. It's like it never goes away. It's amazing how we drown it out for decades, right? The ever present whisper. And when you give it more attention, it gets louder and it's clear and you can see and it has this pulling effect. I wrote a newsletter a few weeks ago about how a vision pulls, a true vision, it pulls you when you give attention to it versus drowning it out with busyness. And as you're giving attention to it and it's getting louder and it's bumping up against all this that you have, right? And it feels a multitude of it. It can feel like a betrayal because like, how dare you not be grateful? How dare you say this man you've been married to for 17 years is not going to be the fit for the next 30 years of your life, right? How dare you, right? Turn your back on this, say that this is not satisfying, that this is not working for you anymore, that this doesn't scratch the itch, feed the ego, give your life the meaning that it once did. How dare you? Who do you think you are? Like, what are you going to do? You're fucking 47. Are you talking about your soul and shit? Like, you're too old for that shit. Well, huh? You know, and then, right, I've had clients where you told God 15 years ago you was going to do this, or whatever is your language, you know, your divine guide, your ancestors, Jesus, whatever, right? You told him, her, that you were going to do this 15 years ago. You didn't follow through on your word. And then all of that is going on. And then, oh my God, like, who am I going to even talk to about this? Because we all know when you keep it ruminating up here, it doesn't get very far because you actually have done that a few times over the last 20, 30 years. And so who am I going to have a very raw, potent, no filter, weird, esoteric, yet high level conversation about what's going on in my inner world with my soul, this very fluid, all-knowing aspect of myself? Who am I going to talk to, like in a real way about that? And then, am I really going to do something about this? Or, depending on the stage you are in your life now, we're moving. Because I just spent 2 weeks in the hospital bed and I don't have any more fucking time to waste. How about that? Or it just depends on where you are. I don't know. Did you just get divorce papers out of the blue from your husband? How about that? You're an empty nester now, and suddenly you realize, who the fuck am I? You realize you've done all the right things. You have the gorgeous Christmas cards and photos. The attachment is strong and it's understandable. I mean, like, everybody's creating meaning in their lives, all of us. I think it was Jung who said, man cannot live without meaning. So this is to give voice to the power of attachments, your current attachments, your attachment to being a PhD, well-paid, successful, superior, educated, supermom, you know, to being all these wonderful things that are true, okay? And your attachment to these things, and even hiding behind them and letting them be the thing that you lead your life with, and using it as a kind of barrier between the external world or even the internal landscape. We're talking about the layers of internal landscape. I'm gonna keep it light because we're on a live stream. But a barrier, like a barricade between who you really are and this, idea of you that people see you as. It's like you hide behind it. It's like your identity. I'm better than you because of this. I cannot connect with you raw because of this. I'm better than you. Therefore, I cannot hear what you're talking about. I cannot do this work. I cannot have this kind of conversation. I am unwilling to move in this way to connect with you lesser people because I am powerful and well paid and smart and a great mom and married and have all these things. And then you may be doing this consciously, unconsciously, but that right there keeps you out of living the legendary life that you're now called to. For the woman who I'm talking to. See, a legendary life requires all of you. And I don't mean legendary to the outside world. I mean legendary to your soul. I mean legendary to the you that is going to be in great awareness at some guaranteed point in the future that you're living your last 6 months on earth. That legendary you. That is in such peace in knowing that you did the thing that your whisper started telling you to do when you were 7, you were 4. And then to know that you constructed what is a beautiful life that you live now. And with those attachments, and with all the strength of ego and strength of identity that you built up, and this shit is strong, I know. It's intense. And still, it ain't got nothing on the soul when the soul really activates. And you're laying at 92. I don't know how long you're going to live. Let's say 92, okay? And you're looking back, the legendary you that knows that even with all those attachments, you let go what needed to be let go, because you may not need to let go of any of those things, or maybe there's a certain way for it to be done. I don't know. It's your life, okay? But making the difficult decisions that only you know you need to make. So now your actions every day when you wake up, the direction that you're going when you say yes to who you really are, lines you up for laying at 92 with glee. Knowing that you did the difficult things, knowing that you brought forth your true voice, what you really wanted to say, do, and be. That you were willing to endure the hardship of breaking attachments that you built up over the last 20 years, realizing that what got you here is not going to get you there. And that you were willing to be courageous enough. You were willing to be obedient enough to your soul's call, to your authentic voice, to then take the steps, make the decisions to move you in that direction. That could potentially be drastically different than what anybody currently knows about you. Drastically different than how they see you. Girl, what happened to you? What's going on? And how many people you will inspire in the process. See, this is in the domain of legendary. Let's talk about your legendary life. Let's talk about the you that will be, when we start talking metaphysically, already exists. The you that already exists. That's waiting for you to claim. Walk in as, stand erect in. To where the people you hang around now, perhaps you hang around less of them or none of them. And you start hanging out with people that you never saw yourself spending time with, working with, traveling with, engaging in higher level projects with. You end up moving to another country. You end up learning another language. You end up on a TED Talk. And like, for those of you who have seen your legendary self, what is she doing? What do you imagine her doing? What does her days look like? Imagine yourself at 52, 70. What is your legendary self doing? Who is her family? And I'm not, it could be blood family, I don't know. But who's the family picked by you that's necessary for your legendary life? Because that's absolutely necessary. We began talking about that in my woman community earlier this week. Who is your hand-picked family? Who's qualified and fit to walk the legendary path with you? I mean, truly, not somebody who's just trying to be a nice listening ear, but someone who's so solid in themselves, so secure in themselves and knows who they are, that you could be a multitude of things. You can be raw. Start there. You can be raw and they can be solid. You could, my experience living a legendary life is that you could jump between personalities within 1 hour. You're working on a project that requires high visibility on your part. It requires a kind of structure and order of people, resources, places, hopping on planes. In part, I experienced this with organizing women in Italy in September. And I'm the leader of this thing. I'm the authority. I'm the head, right? And over here is this, over here is that, over here is that. And all of that requires different aspects of myself. But see, when you're living your egoically superior, sophisticated life, there's a sort of dimension that you have to stay in to maintain everything that allows you to stay in that life. This is why I can start to feel so soul-sucking when, oh my God, I have all the material things. This is what the world constitutes success, but somehow it ain't scratching that itch of the soul. It doesn't feed me at the deepest, most primal, most raw, cervix level, bottom of my brain, center of my soul level. What the fuck is going on? That. So in order to actually live a legendary life, which automatically separates you from most of humans, this is why I say that's why it's necessary for you to hand pick your family. But you only truly start hand picking your family when you make the decision, as I said, over from living the egoically superior, sophisticated life over into a legendary life. And all that was off the top of my head, by the way. Love that. That was fun. When you actually make the decision, you move like it. My Unapologetically You Masterclass. You definitely need to come if you are this woman who I'm talking about and you're ready for your legendary life. Okay? Here's what I want. I'm aware that ultimately anybody who wants to register for this can. I mean, I can't stop you, right? And I want to say this now for the future. What I'm getting ready to say is for the future, okay? The ways that we're truly going to work together, first of all, are very raw. They're very honest. They're very real. Okay. And to a great degree, you know what I'm talking about. Okay. And so while this masterclass is absolutely amazing, it's a gateway. It's an introduction. It's not it. Okay. There are things to discuss in two-way engagements, three-way, four-way, 10-way engagements, whether it's you and I, or myself, you, and 7 other women, 15 other women, okay? There are engagements to be had, online and offline, that are not going to happen in the masterclass, okay? The masterclass is going to be for anybody who chooses to show up, frankly, okay? And like I said, there will be potentially women there who should not be there. They're just intrigued. They're curious. They want to see. And there are things that conversations that they cannot be a part of. They wouldn't get it. It's not for them. So the depth that I'm talking about here, the true long-term dedication, okay? The intimacy of the relationship with your family, your hand-picked family, the nuance of this path of your legendary life that I'm talking about happens in smaller circles, more dedicated circles. You know who I am. I know who you are. We're getting to know each other and we're working deeper together. That happens beyond the masterclass. I want you to know that, okay? So to begin though, right? And I'm also open if you have been watching me for a while, okay? And you're like, Naima, I'm already ready for next, right? Like you read the details on the masterclass page and you know you're either ready for private or for next because you've been watching my content. Don't contact me. I mean, unless you just really know. Don't contact me on that shit. You know what I'm talking about, okay? Read the details on the masterclass page. Watch the video. If that's a yes for you, come to the masterclass, okay? From there, let's look at what's happening beyond the masterclass. Are you ready to say yes to your legendary life? I'm excited just saying it. Are you ready to say yes to a soul level of difficulty? And oftentimes the decision is difficult. And after that, you have a wonderful year of, I won't say smooth sailing, but there's something about when you do difficult things that are in alignment with your soul, even if the external feels challenging, your depth is calm. Because you know you're in alignment with what you're called to do. Even if in that decision that you made to walk the legendary life, there's things you got to reorganize because you made the decision to move yourself up out of that, into your legendary life, right? So all the practical things that need to be moved around and changed, and right? I mean, you can move to another country. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? And you all actually always wanted to move to another country, but because I have this and that, and I gotta. Makes me think of when I wanted to move to Italy. And the only reason why I came back to the US is because I was in college and I was married. And if I was not in college, if I was not married, I would have stayed in Italy. This is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Okay? So read the details on the Unapologetically You Masterclass. The link is in my bio. Okay? We're going to cover 3 topics and we're going to go deep into them. They're so deeply relevant to what's required from going to the normal egoically filled, sophisticated life into the legendary life. There's 3 hot topics that we're going to cover in the masterclass. Those details are